Good morning, everybody. Good morning. We've got day 172, Blue Letter Bible Apple in a year. 1 Kings 10 and 11. 2 Chronicles 9. What we're talking about is Solomon. I got a cat that's going to drive me crazy. Hold on, let me get rid of it. Come on. Here it comes. There you go, girlie. Yeah, you go out too. All right. So, without further ado, and when the queen of Sheba heard the fame of Solomon concerning the name of Jehovah, she came to prove him with hard questions. She came prove him as test him with hard questions. And she came to Jerusalem with a very great train, with the camels and the bare spices and very much gold, precious stones. And when she come to Solomon, she communed with him of all that was in her heart. And Solomon told her all her questions, and it was not anything hid from the king, which he told her not. And when the queen of Sheba had seen all Solomon's wisdom, and the house that he had built, and the meat of his table, and the sitting of his servants, and the attendance of his ministers, and their apparel, and his cupbearers, and his ascent by which he went up into the house of Jehovah, there was no more spirit in her. And he said to the king, and she said to the king, it was a true report that I heard in my own land of thy acts and thy wisdom. Howbeit, I believed not thy words, until I came and my eyes had seen it, and behold, half was not told to me. Thy wisdom and prosperity exceedeth the fame which I heard. Happy are thy men, happy are thy servants, which stand continuously before me, and that hear thy wisdom. Blessed be Jehovah thy God, which delighted in thee to set thee on the throne of Israel, because Jehovah loved Israel forever. Therefore made he the king to do judgment and justice. And she gave the king 120 talents of gold, and every spice and great store and precious stones. And there came no more such abundance of spices as these which the queen of Sheba gave to King Solomon. And the navy also of Hiram brought gold from Ophir, and brought in from Ophir great plenty of almug trees and precious stones. And the king made the almug trees pillars for the house, and Jehovah, and for the king's house harps, and also psalteries and singers. And there came so much almug trees, nor were seen unto this day. And King Solomon gave unto the queen of Sheba all her desire, whatsoever she asked, besides that which Solomon gave her of his royal bounty. So she turned and went to her own country, and her servants. And now the weight of gold that came unto Solomon in 1 year was 606 talents of gold. Whoops. Yikes. Besides that, he had merchantmen, and the traffic of the spices of the merchants, and all of the kings of Arabia, and all the governors of the country. And King Solomon made 200 targets of beaten gold, 600 shekels of gold, and he went to one target. And he made 300 shields of beaten gold, and 3 pounds of gold went into one shield. And he and the king put them in the house of the forest of Lebanon. Moreover, the king made a great throne of ivory, and overlaid it with the best gold. And the throne had 6 steps, and the top of the throne was round behind, and there were stays on either side of the place of the seat, and 2 lions stood beside the stays. And the 12 lions stood there, one on one side and one on the other, and the 6 steps, and there was not like that made in any kingdom. Yeah, this is for believers, Mr. Wisdom there. Yeah. This is a deal for believers, man. And the 12 lions stood there on one side and the other upon the six steps, and there was not like any made in any kingdom. And all King Solomon's drinking vessels were of gold, and all of the vessels of the house of the forest of Lebanon were pure gold, and none were silver. It was nothing accounted in the days of Solomon. And the king had at a sea a navy of Tarshish, and with the navy of Hiram. Once in 3 years came the navy, Tharish, and bring gold and silver and ivory and apes and peacocks. So King Solomon exceeded all the kings of the earth, for the riches, for the wisdom, and all the earth sought to Solomon, to hear his wisdom, which God had put in his heart. And they brought every man his presents, vessels of silver, vessels of gold, garments, armor, spices, horses, mules, and the rate year by year. And Solomon gathered together chariots and horsemen, and he had 1,400 chariots and 12,000 horsemen, whom he bestowed in the cities of chariots, and the king at Jerusalem. The king made silver to be in Jerusalem as stones, and cedars to be as the sycamore trees that are in the vale, for abundance. And Solomon had horses brought out of Egypt, and linen yarn, and the king's merchants received linen yarn at a price. And a chariot came up and went out of Egypt for 600 shekels of silver, and a horse for 150. So for all the kings of the Hittites and the kings of Syria did they bring them out of their means. Chapter 11. But King Solomon loved many strange women. Here's where we go sideways. But King Solomon loved many strange women together with the daughter of Pharaoh, women at the Moabites and the Ammonites and the Edomites and the Zidonians and the Hittites, of the nations concerning which Jehovah said unto the children of Israel, Ye shall not go into them, neither shall they come into you, for surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon clave unto these in love. And he had 700 wives and princesses and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. For it came to pass when Solomon was old that his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not perfect with Jehovah. What did David pray? That Solomon would have a perfect heart. But he did not hearken with all that wisdom, and he didn't listen. Oliver Tree fan, good morning, good morning. Oh man, so. We can't not take this as a lesson, folks. For Solomon went after the Ashtaroth, the goddess of the Zidonians, and after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites. Okay, here it is right here in Scripture. This is what Solomon did. The Ashtaroth. If you pull up what an Ashtaroth looks, it's like this ugly carving thing. Okay, it has the same significance as one of those monoliths in Egypt. The same significance, to the same God, different name, different culture. Okay, that ugly wooden Ashtaroth that the Zidonians made, the Chaldeans made, and the Sumerians. Around Syria, they look like those wooden carvings. Egypt built those stone monoliths, okay, that look like the Washington Monument. Okay, they moved one of them from Egypt right to the dead center of St. Peter's Basilica in Rome in the Vatican. It's idolatry, folks. It's pagan. It's learning the way of the heathen. Pagan worship. Okay, what did they look? What is it when you if you were to build one of those in Northern Europe, what would it look like? It would look like a Christmas tree. Different culture, different look, the same roots. The same roots, all the way back to Nimrod. There was a book written in the 1800s called The Two Babylons. It's interesting. Milcom, the abomination of the Amorites. And Solomon did evil in the sight of Jehovah and went not fully after Jehovah, as did David his father. Then did Solomon build a high place for Chemoth, the abomination of Moab, in the hill of Jerusalem, before Jerusalem, and for Molech, the abomination of the children of Ammon. And likewise he did for all his strange wives, which burnt incense and sacrificed unto their gods. And Jehovah was angry with Solomon, because his heart was turned from God of Israel, which had appeared unto him twice. And he commanded him concerning this thing, that he should not go after other gods, but he kept not which the Lord commanded. Doing the same thing today with our Christmas, with our Easter. Easter is reckoned 40 days in the new moon, or after, a full moon after the equinox. Okay. Passover is the 14th day of the first month of Abib. After the month of Abib is established, it's 14 days later. Two separate things. One has pagan roots. One is godly roots. Okay, even though we're not supposed to do Passover outside of Jerusalem where he puts his name, learn not the way of the heathen, folks. And we fall right back into it out of ignorance, because people don't read the Old Testament. Therefore Jehovah said unto Solomon, forasmuch I've done these things, thou hast not kept my covenant, my statutes, which I have commanded thee. I shall surely rend the kingdom from thee, and will give it unto thy servant. Okay, now he's going to split up the kingdom. It's not really going to affect Solomon, because Solomon's on his way out. He's old. It's going to affect his sons. That's how this works, folks. Notwithstanding in thy days, the tribulation will be upon us for this very same reason. Notwithstanding in thy days, I will not do it for David, for thy father's sake, but I will rend it out of the hand of thy son. Howbeit, I will not rend away all of the kingdom, but will give one tribe to thy son for David, my servant's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, which I have chosen. And Jehovah stirred up an adversary unto Solomon, Hadad the Edomite, and he was of the king of seed of Edom. For it came to pass, when David was in Edom, and Joab, the captain of the host, was gone to bury the slain, after he had smitten every male in Edom. For 6 months did Joab remain there with all Israel, until he had cut off every male in Edom. That Hadad fled, and the certain Edomites of his father's servants with him did go into Egypt, Hadad being yet a little child. And they arose out of Midian, and came to Paran, and took men with them out of Paran. And they came to Egypt, unto Pharaoh the king of Egypt, which gave him a house, and appointed him victuals, and gave him land. And Hadad found great favor in the sight of Pharaoh, so that he gave him a wife, and sisters of his own wife, and sisters of Talpins the queen. And the sister Talpins bare Genubath his son, whom Talpins weaned in Pharaoh's house, and Genubath was in the Pharaoh's household among the sons of Pharaoh. And when Hadad heard in Egypt that David slept with his fathers, and that Joab the captain of the host was dead, Hadad said to Pharaoh, let me depart, that I may go to my own country. Then Pharaoh said unto him, but what hast thou lacked with me, that behold, thou seekest to go into thy own country? And he answered, nothing, howbeit, let me go anywise. And God stirred him up another adversary, Rezon, the son of Elidah, which fled from his lord Hadaezer, the king of Zobah. And he gathered men unto him and became captain over a band. When David slew them of Zobah, he went to Damascus and dwelt therein and reigned in Damascus. And he was an adversary to Israel all the days of Solomon. Besides the mischief that Hadad did, he abhorred Israel and reigned over Syria. And Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, Ephratite of Zerada, Solomon's servant, whose mother was named Zerah, a widow woman, and he lifted up his hand against the king. And this was the cause that he lifted up his hands against King Solomon. The king Solomon built Milo and repaired the breaches of the city of David his father. And the man Jeroboam was a mighty man of valor. And Solomon, seeing the young man that he was industrious, he made him ruler over all the charge of the house of Joseph. And when it came to pass that at that time, when Jeroboam went out of Jerusalem, that the prophet Ahijah the Shiloite found him in the way, and he had clad himself with new garments. And they two were alone in the field. And Ahijah caught the new garment that was on him and rent it in 12 pieces. And he said to Jeroboam, take these 10 pieces, for thus saith Jehovah, the God of Israel, behold, I will rend the kingdom out of the hand of Solomon, and will give 10 tribes to thee. But he shall have one tribe for my servant David's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, and the city which I have chosen out of all the tribes of Israel. Because they have forsaken me and worship Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Zidonians, Chemosh, the god of the Moabites, and Milcom, the god of the children of Ammon, and have not walked in my way to do which is right in my eyes, to keep my statutes and my judgments, as David did as his father. Howbeit, I will not take the whole kingdom out of his hands. I will make him a prince all the days of his life for David my servant's sake, whom I chose, because he kept my commandments and my statutes. But I will take the kingdom out of his son's hand, and will give it unto thee, even 10 tribes. And unto this son I will give one tribe, that David my servant may have a light always be before me in Jerusalem, and the city which I have chosen to put my name there. And I will take thee, and thou shalt reign according to all thou soul desireth, and shall be king over Israel. And it shall be, if thou wilt hearken unto all I command thee, and will walk, and will, if thou wilt hearken unto all I command thee, and walk in my ways, and do what is right in my sight, keep my statutes, keep my commandments, as David my servant did, that will be with thee. I will build thee a sure house, as I built for David, and will give Israel unto thee. If. And I will afflict the seed of David, but not forever. Solomon sought therefore to kill Jeroboam. And Jeroboam arose and fled into Egypt, into Shishkash, king of Egypt, and was in Egypt till the death of Solomon. And the rest of the acts of Solomon, all he did in his wisdom, they are not written in the book of Acts of Solomon. And at the time of Solomon reigned in Jerusalem over all Israel was 40 years. And Solomon slept with his fathers and was buried in the city of David his father. And Rehoboam his son reigned in his stead. Okay, so Rehoboam takes over. Jeroboam is going to have the 10 northern tribes. Okay, so that was Kings 10 and 11. 12, we're going to hear about Jeroboam. And then 13, we're going to hear about the man of God. So now let's go listen to the same account in 2 Chronicles 9. And when the king of Sheba heard the fame of Solomon, she came to prove Solomon with hard questions at Jerusalem. This is 2 Chronicles 9. Verse 1. hard questions at Jerusalem in a very great company, and the camels that bear spices and gold in abundance and precious stone. And when she came to Solomon, she communed with him all that was in her heart. Verse 2. And Solomon told her all her questions, and there was nothing hid from Solomon which he told her not. And when the queen of Sheba had seen the wisdom of Solomon and his house that he had built, and the meat of his table, and the sitting of his servants, and the attendance of his ministers, and their apparel, his cupbearers also, their apparel, and his ascent which he went up into the house of Jehovah, there was no more spirit in her. And she said to the king, it was true, the report of which I heard in my own land of thy acts and of thy wisdom. Howbeit, I believed not their words until I came and my eyes had seen it. Behold, the one half of greatness of thy wisdom was not told me, for thou exceedest the fame that I heard. Happy are thy men that are thee, thy servants, which stand continually before thee and hear thy wisdom. Blessed be Jehovah thy God, which delighteth in thee and set to his throne to be king for Jehovah God, because the God loved Israel to establish them forever. Therefore he made thee a king over them, to do judgment and to do justice. And she gave the king 120 talents of gold, and of spices of great abundance and precious stones. Neither was there any such spice as the queen of Sheba had given Solomon. And the servants also of Hiram, and the servants of Solomon, which brought gold from Ophir, and algum trees, and the precious stones. And the king made the algum trees terraces to the house of Jehovah, and the king's palace, and the harps, and the psalteries, and the singers. And there was none seen before in the land before in the land of Judah. And King Solomon gave the queen of Sheba all her desire, whatsoever she asked, besides that which had brought into the king. So she turned and went away to her own land, and her servants. And now the weight of gold came to Solomon in 1 year was 666 talents of gold. That's 666 talents of gold, folks. 666 talents of gold. There's a tell right there. Something's going to go awry. Besides which, the captain of merchants brought, and the kings of Arabia and the governors in the country brought in gold and silver to Solomon. And the king of Solomon made 200 targets of beaten gold. 600 shekels of beaten gold went into one target, and 300 shields he made of beaten gold. There was 100 shekels of gold went to one 100 shekels of gold went to one shield, and the king put them in the house of the forest of Lebanon. Moreover, the king made a great throne of ivory and overlaid it with pure gold, and there were 6 steps to the throne, with a footstool of gold which were fastened to the throne, and the stays on each side sitting in place, 2 lions standing by the stays. And the 12 lions stood there on one side of the other in the 6 steps. And there was not like any made in any kingdom. And all the drinking vessels of King Solomon were gold, and all the vessels of the house of the Lebanon were pure gold. None were silver, and it was not anything accounted for in the days of Solomon. For the king's ship went to Tarshish with his servants of Huran, and every 3 years once came the ships of Tarshish bringing gold, silver, ivory, apes, and peacocks. And King Solomon passed all the kings of the earth in riches and wisdom. And all the kings of the earth sought the presence of Solomon to hear his wisdom that God put in his heart. And they brought every man presents and vessels and silver and gold and raiment and harnesses and spices and horses and mules, the rate year by year. And Solomon had 400 stalls for horses and chariots and 12,000 horsemen, whom he bestowed in the chariots of cities with the king of Jerusalem. And he reigned all over the kings in the river and unto the land and to the borders of Egypt. And the king made silver in Jerusalem as stones, and cedar trees he made as the sycamore trees that are in the low plains in abundance. And they brought unto Solomon horses out of Egypt and all of the lands. Now the rest of the acts of Solomon, first and last, are they not written in the book of Nathan the prophet? And then the prophecy of Elijah the Shilonite, and the visions of Edu, and the seer of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat. And Solomon reigned in Jerusalem all over Israel 40 years. And Solomon slept with his fathers as he was buried in the city of David his father. And Rehoboam his son reigned in his stead. All right, so that's the end of Solomon's reign and the beginning of Rehoboam's reign as the king of Judah. And Jeroboam will be, from here on out, from here, for his time, he will be the king of Israel. The story of Jeroboam is huge. That is it's an example of what not to do. Paul warns us in Romans 11 not to do what Jeroboam did. Okay? So in that warning, he calls it unbelief. Learning the way of the heathen, he calls it unbelief, folks, in Romans 11. So that's what we're going to be reading next. All right, I love you guys.